exactly 10 o'clock, so I'm going to stick to my word and get started. So for those of you who were at our economic update session, I apologize. Some of this is repetitive, but we do have people joining each of the sessions that weren't in the previous one. So just bear with me. So again, welcome everyone. Glad you could join us. I'm going to serve as your host today. My name is Maria Gambacorta. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Lumsden, and I know so very many of you, so it's good to see you all joining in. So this webinar is being recorded, and we are going to share the slide deck and the recordings in a day or two. They will be posted on our website, and we'll send everyone a link to all of those so you can access them. Both the chat and the Q&A are enabled. If you have any questions for our guest presenters, if you could put them in the questions, and any comments regarding the webinar or tech issues, troubleshooting, you can put in the chat and I can respond to you for that. As many of you know, we are offering CPE for this session. It's 1 hour of CPE. Because of that, there are 4 polling questions. If you could answer all 4, that will guarantee that you'll get the CPE credit. And within about 30 days, you will receive a CPE certificate from Lumsden and McCormick. And that information will be put in the chat in just a minute. It'll give you the email address that you can watch out for. It's from the software company Prolera. So that's who the email comes from. It does not come from Lumsden. And then also, as part of the CPE credits, we will be launching right after you leave this session an evaluation that is also required for CPE, and it's also great for our speakers and a way for you to give us feedback so we can improve these sessions year after year. So if you could please take a minute to complete that. And as a reminder to when you log into the Zoom sessions, both the 11 o'clock session and tomorrow, if you could please remember to use your full name and email address. That again helps us match up the attendees. Okay, so I'm done with all the housekeeping, so I'm going to now turn the program over to Seth. Seth is a partner with Lumsden, obviously, and he is an expert in exempt organizations, including governmental entities. Before I turn it over to Seth, I just real quick on a personal note, I wanted, excuse me, to give a big thank you to Naria. Naria Santalucia is actually, oh, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, is actually married to my cousin John, my wonderful cousin John. And so that's how the connection is. They don't live in Buffalo, they live in Seattle, but that's how we're able to bring Microsoft and Naria to this event. And so I'm so happy for that. And so glad that she brought a Buffalo connection in with Sarah and Buffalo Tech. So Seth, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Maria. So the next session is going to be about artificial intelligence. So I'm sure everybody has heard about that. It's been a really hot topic the last recent times, maybe over a year. So we've at Lumsden we've started using some more artificial intelligence and some products to help us gain audit efficiencies and just general use, even personal use in some cases. So I think everybody can get a lot out of this, hopefully. So Naria Santalucia, as Maria said, serves as the general manager for digital inclusion and community engagement at Microsoft Philanthropies. Naria oversees Microsoft's global philanthropic strategy, grant investments, and partnerships in digital skills, computer science education, and career pathways. With the goal of increasing digital computing and AI skills for traditionally underrepresented and under-resourced communities, Naria works in partnership with nonprofit organizations around the world to help millions of people thrive in the digital economy. Naria is a graduate of the law school and college at the University of Chicago. She is currently the chair of the World Bank Solutions for Youth Employment and also serves on the board of directors of Columbia Legal Services. Also with us is Sarah Tanbakuchi. Sarah joined Tech Buffalo to continue spearheading efforts to elevate and promote homegrown tech talent in Western New York and raise Buffalo Niagara's profile as a top destination for tech. Sarah has led large-scale operations in banking, including the launch of the M&T Tech Academy, served as an attorney and an active member of the community, serving as various organizations as board members. I believe also Naria said she would take questions as you have them, so feel free to input questions into the question box, and I'll try to interrupt when appropriate without trying to break them up too much as we go along. With that, I'll turn it over to Naria and Sarah.
Great. Thank you so much. And hi, everyone. And thank you, Maria, for the personal shout out. You know, I have eaten my way through Western New York many a time. And so my spirit and stomach is with you all. And I just wanted to say thank you to Lumsden and to Seth for the intro as well. And a special thank you to Sarah. So I wanted to just, you know, one of our key programs that we're so proud of at Microsoft Philanthropies is a program called TechSpark, which we launched about in 2016 in specific areas around the US, where we wanted to think about outside of kind of the Seattle, Redmond, where our home headquarters is, but how could we really help build up the tech ecosystem and partner and learn from different communities? And last year we were able to expand that to all 50 states, and our partner on the ground is Tech Buffalo and Sarah, and just they do amazing work, and I'm super excited about the panel discussion that we'll have in a moment. But just for a little bit of context, so I work more on the philanthropy giving side and kind of investments and how do we partner with nonprofit tech exempt organizations like all of you to really advance skilling and digital inclusion and digital equity. But within our philanthropies team, we actually do have our industry team as well, and they really work on helping nonprofits themselves digitally transform to make sure that they can effectively reach their mission in a really powerful way. And of course, we have a various suite of free technology offers, discounted offers. So definitely want to make those available if you all don't have those. And I'll kind of link them and send those to Maria at the end as well. But with that, so I kind of gave a little bit of the caveat because I am a user of technology, likely like many of you. Some of you may be actually creators and implementers of the technology, but I'm coming at this from a user perspective. And so if you have implementation questions, I'm happy again to put that offer out to connect you with the right people within our team in Microsoft as well. So really quick overview of today. We are going to break in with those polls. The polls are related to the topic, so please answer them, not only for your CPE credits, because then we can also kind of steer the agenda, and definitely break in with putting questions in the chat. Happy to take those and answer those as they come. But really quickly, we'll give an overview of AI and generative AI. I do have some videos I'm going to play to spice things up a little bit, so you're not just hearing my voice. And then some ways that we've already seen exempt organizations leverage AI, and then potential pitfalls to consider. And then I'm very excited about the part where we're going to turn to Sarah, and we'll just do a quick fireside chat about how Western New York and organizations in Western New York are already thinking about AI and embracing AI. And it says Q&A at the bottom, but you know, again, feel free to break in right away. So with that, you know, Seth, you mentioned this, that there's been a big spike from about a year ago, but, you know, AI is actually a lot of different things. And, you know, it's been a part of our lives for decades. You know, it's like one example that always resonates with me is when we used to use those paper maps to drive around, right? And then we now all are on our phone and have the assistance and kind of ability to navigate. Well, that's all like using AI as well. And so I think the big shift that happened in November, as we all know, with the introduction of ChatGPT, gave us every single person the ability to kind of use it and play with it with their own two hands, you know. And so that's, I think, really the shift that we're seeing. And it's quite exciting. But just wanted to put out there that there are so many different types of AI, computer vision, robotics, you know, of course, large language models, but there's so much within that whole kind of sphere, and how, you know, it is not necessarily a new thing, but that it's something that is just this new powerful ability to become a tool that we can use now in our everyday lives. So I'm going to play a quick video, just kind of level setting for folks on what is AI.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to the development of computer systems or software that can perform tasks traditionally requiring human intelligence, such as learning from data, making predictions, and solving complex problems through the use of mathematical and logical algorithms. With new advancements in AI happening faster than ever, it's important to understand the concepts behind this field. In this video, you'll explore the foundational concepts of AI, including data, models, algorithms, and neural networks. Let's start with data. Data is the raw material that AI systems use to learn and make predictions. There are two types of data, labeled and unlabeled. Data is considered labeled when it's been assigned tags such as name, type, or number. Unlabeled data has no tags. Data can take many forms, including text, images, audio, video, and numerical values. An AI model detects patterns and relationships in the data and processes them so it can generate predictions when exposed to new data. The dataset used to train the machine learning algorithms directly impacts the accuracy of the trained AI models, making it essential to use high-quality data that is diverse and representative. An algorithm is a set of step-by-step instructions that AI models follow to perform a specific task. Algorithms are used in data processing, model training, and decision-making. Let's take a closer look at the machine learning algorithm, which is a core concept in AI. Machine learning is the process of training a computer to learn on its own, without direct instruction. Machine learning uses techniques such as supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, and more to train machine learning models. In supervised learning, the machine learning model is trained with labeled data. The algorithm detects patterns in the data and the corresponding labels and learns to make its own predictions or decisions when faced with new, similar situations. In unsupervised learning, the machine learning model is trained to solve problems using unlabeled data based on similarities and differences between them. In reinforcement learning, the machine learning model is trained to make decisions in complex environments using a method of reinforcement obtained from its results. The algorithm learns from its successes and failures to make decisions even when data is unavailable. The next key concept is neural networks. Neural networks consist of interconnected nodes in a layered structure. This structure is inspired by the structure of the human brain. Neural networks are particularly effective at using languages. Neural networks' ability to identify patterns in vast data sets also powers tools used in education, including language translation and voice assistance. Now that you have learned the foundational concepts of AI, you can better understand much of the technology that surrounds us daily. With this understanding, you are better prepared to navigate an ever-evolving digital landscape and to utilize AI-driven tools in your daily life and work.
Great. And actually, we're at our first polling question. So I'll let Maria help with that. So the question being, have you used any generative AI tools for work? Yes or no? So would love to see. I'll answer myself as well. But you know, it's interesting. I don't know if you all could see on my screen, but even as I was doing this presentation, the Zoom AI kind of came in and said, "Hey, are you playing audio?" And I think these are just these like little nudges and tips and tricks and tools that really help even increase productivity. So I just thought that was a great example. And are people still seeing that, by the way? No. Okay. You never saw it. I saw it, which is great.
You know what I did? I launched the wrong poll. So hang on a second. I'm sorry. Let me do one and we can start over. There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. So this is the right poll.
So have you used any generative AI tools for work? Yes or no? Great. We'll let folks answer.
Yeah, we're just about almost 90% participation. So we'll just give it another second, get everyone. All right. I'm going to end the poll and then Naria, I will share the results.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a pretty good break. So 47% yes and 53% no so far. So really great. Maybe some of the folks can put into the chat who have said yes, some of the ways that you've used used generative AI so far. That could be pretty interesting. So far, they have not created the ability for an AI to answer your poll. So we still need the humans involved, right? Okay, so one of the things that why we're really excited within our team, within Microsoft, that's really working with nonprofits and IGOs and tax exempt organizations they're really, is a huge, as I'm sure many of you are feeling this yourselves, a talent shortage in the industry. There's a lot of burnout, a lot of turnover, a lot of employee sentiment that's of not enough training, not enough professional development, and frankly, a lot of digital debt, right? A lot of processes that people will have to continue to do in their daily lives. And so folks are, again, here on some of the polls that we've done, are saying that they're not as productive as they were before, that they're concerned about the lack of the ability to have breakthrough ideas. And so one of the things that we're very excited and bullish about is like, how can we help our nonprofit customers and our partners to really leverage this tool to reduce that digital debt, to help with the burnout? How can we help them, stay invigorated and excited, help with that innovation and the breakthrough idea? So really, that's the why. At the end of the day, all of this technology, like a computer, like a calculator, is just something that's going to help us do our work faster and in a more productive way, so that we can actually have time for more of that creativity, more of the unique human activities that are so important in this sector. So with that, I wanted to just chat a little bit about some of the things that we've seen so far. And I know Sarah will talk about this during our fireside chat as well, but that, AI has really shown up for nonprofits so far. One of the most exciting use cases, I think, is really around fundraising. And when we, Microsoft, first started talking about our co-pilots and how we're integrating, ChatGPT into all of our products, our CEO, Satya Nadella, talked about the first example he used was this use case in India, where a farmer who could not speak that had a very local dialect and localized language, was able to take a generative AI application, and this data had been trained with what governments and the agricultural ministry was asking for from farmers. And this farmer was able to, with the click of a button, apply for funding from the agricultural ministry in his local state. So that is so powerful, because it takes somebody, because I know people think, oh my gosh, AI is so challenging, but there are so many of these fluency cases, right, where you can use and leverage this tool to really help with things like fundraising and, of course, reporting back, right? Because we all know how complex and challenging it can be when we have government funding or other sources of funding. They're asking for a ton of data, a ton of different inputs. And if there is a way we can, train the generative AI to be responsive to that at the click of a button, very, very powerful. So with that, I think we're at our next polling question. Have your clients asked you about generative AI since November of 2022?
So I'm going to completely relaunch this poll. So even if you answered it previously, if you guys can answer it again, and again, I apologize.
Have your clients or your customers or the people that you're serving asked about generative AI?
Everyone's answering this super quick, so this is great. Give it another 30 seconds. All right, we're at 97% participation, so I'm going to close the poll and then I will share the results.
No, not yet. Oh, that's great. Okay, well, now you have some talking points and the ability to generate that excitement and conversation. Very, very interesting. I'm going to just click back to the slide. which is really around kind of the next use case I want to chat a little bit about is like marketing and communications. And this is actually a way that I have been using this tool a lot. So, we try to do a lot of LinkedIn posts, like talk about our work. And it would honestly take me sometimes on X, Twitter, like an hour to write a tweet. I was like, oh, I'm getting the words wrong. What can I say? How can I make it unique? And now with the push of a button, I'm able to say, hey, write me a LinkedIn post on my visit with Sarah at Tech Buffalo. And actually, I did that. There is a LinkedIn post literally on LinkedIn where I posted the day that we launched our Tech Spark Fellows program. And that was actually written and a little bit, and then edited by me, of course, using Bing Chat. So just a really great example of how, I saved at least an hour, and I was able to instead spend that hour with Sarah on the ground. Another really exciting area where I think, nonprofits, tax exempt organizations are really going to be able to harness this tool is in the actual mission work itself, right? In the program delivery. I'm going to show a video in a moment about some of the use cases that we would love to see with like teachers and trainers. But I think this is where I saw one that was created in the Netherlands where healthcare workers were able to go out with all the data kind of built in behind them and have a conversation with mental health patients, but then use the chat bot to kind of say, oh, what service could I provide or talk about next? So I think, is this on a timer? I'm just gonna go back real quick. And then finally on finance and operations, this is an area where, a lot of tools are being developed to help with improving processes, helping to crunch data, like actually on the co-pilots that you'll see on our Office products. Excel, for example, I know many people can't unlock all the functionality of Excel. Like I always make this joke, like, I'm not really great at making pivot tables, but now with the click of a button in the co-pilot, you can say, take this data and make a pivot table, do all these other kinds of operations that, you don't need to have all of that productivity knowledge now to do that. So very exciting, I think, about the ways that we can really save time for nonprofits. I do want to show really quickly this video because I think it's a really great way to kind of start imagining how on the program delivery side, we can leverage AI. And this is really specifically about how trainers can leverage generative AI in their work.
The widespread adoption of digital technology has accelerated the integration of digital tools and technologies in various industries and workplaces, including the field of education. As in other fields, education is no longer limited to specific locations or time constraints. As a trainer or educator, you can choose to conduct learning programs in person, online, or in a hybrid format. You also have the option to run them synchronously or asynchronously. While flexible learning environments make education more accessible to learners, they also increase the demands on you to manage these new layers of complexity in areas such as curriculum design, learner engagement, and content delivery. The utilization of generative AI presents an innovative approach for navigating these demands. Instead of designing lessons from the ground up, generative AI tools like Bing Chat can provide you with an initial framework or set of alternatives to a given input. By giving specific guidelines to Bing Chat, such as learning outcomes, target audience, or format, you can generate learning designs that are aligned with your educational objectives. This allows you to apply your creative insights to fine-tune the AI-generated content rather than starting from scratch. In hybrid and virtual learning environments, you now engage in more direct conversations with your learners. The amount of data, emails, and interactions you encounter daily with your students has most likely increased. Generative AI tools like Microsoft 365 Copilot can help you summarize long emails and draft suggested replies. It can also suggest discussion points and action items in real time during a training or workshop. With generative AI tools, you can improve content delivery by developing learning material outside of your skill sets. For example, you can use Bing Image Creator to complement your lesson with AI-generated images, Or use Bing Chat to help you create a lesson design customized to meet your learners' educational needs. You can also direct Bing Chat to create a draft of a quiz to test comprehension skills. The integration of generative AI in education is transforming teaching methods and the learning process. It is also transforming how education industries operate by enhancing trainers' creativity, productivity, and skills.
Great. So one of the like, I'm sorry, let me go. Well, I'll just stay on this side. I really do. I'm super excited about, especially like the teaching profession as well, which I know are very much kind of pressed with talent, the talent shortage as well. And some of the use cases that we've been hearing from our education colleagues have been really great, not only being able to kind of make a lesson plan on the fly or kind of train large language model to help become like an individual tutor to students so that that teacher can work with the whole classroom and kind of extend themselves. But one of the ones that just was really heartening is about that digital debt, that teachers are expected to do so many different things now, not just teach. And what they want to do is like be with students and have time to actually have that individual relationship with students. So I heard one use case where a teacher was using ChatGPT, Bing Chat, to just write emails to all the parents, because like it's often the parents that are, just tell me this, tell me that thing. And they were able to draft all the emails, send those out, and use that saved time to work directly with students. So I think these are just the really cool opportunities that we're so excited about. I'm not going to drain this out because I want to get to Sarah, but there is a long pathway for adoption. Of course, it starts first with being aware and education, knowing what this is, like thinking about the use cases that could be relevant for a nonprofit themselves. If you're starting to build these technologies, like we do have, a lot of different kind of products like that are low code, no code, that you can now use to build your own kind of AI tools. How do we think about security, compliance, privacy, ethics? So there in this deck, I'm not going to play it, but there is a video that it talks about responsible AI and how can we think about deploying these technologies responsibly. So encourage everyone to take a look at that as well. But there is, of course, a long adoption journey, and there is, everything from just your workers and people who you work with using AI all the way through like building some of these tools. So and everything in between, of course. And with that, I know there is a poll. Should we go to this next poll real quick? Because one of the questions that people do have that we get a lot from different governments and partners that we work with is what's going to happen with jobs and what's going to happen for people because of AI. So we just wanted to put this poll out here. How much of your work do you think will be augmented by generative AI? And just, kind of, we talked about a few use cases, but thinking about your own organizations and kind of what are some ways that you think your work could be augmented or not by generative AI.
We'll give it another 30 seconds and then I'll share the results.
Perfect.
All right, last chance. I'm going to end the poll. Okay.
Okay, yeah, 1 to 25% is the main. I honestly, I'm at about 1 to 25% right now as well. I definitely think I'm using it as a way to kind of kickstart drafts, kickstart work. I actually just did all of my performance reviews with team members, and I ended up speaking it and then editing all of that using ChatGPT, and saved me, a significant amount of time, but it still was all the work that I had to do to edit, to write the first draft, like to think through all, of course, like, what I wanted to say about each of my team members. So yeah, I'm also about there as well, about 0 to 25%. But I did want to share one thing, which of course, Microsoft, in a part of our family is LinkedIn, and the LinkedIn economic graph is the data set that sits behind LinkedIn. It is all the companies, all the members, all the skills that are represented. And they've just started doing a little bit of analysis, of course, and it's still early days, right? Because the products are not necessarily in full use, and we don't still know the power of the technology yet in all the different use cases. But since April, even, we've seen generative AI increase by 25%. We've seen 75% increase in job roles that actually have like things like ChatGPT or prompt engineering, which is basically how do you like write the questions and queries to get generative AI answers back. Those jobs postings have gone up by 75%. And we're already seeing like a 15-time increase in how people are saying, AI is a skill that they have, like using generative AI. But the one thing to note is like there are likely, they started kind of taking a look at how generative AI could potentially augment or, replace some tasks. And you'll see like some of the industries that we'll be thinking about are like financial reporting, email marketing, data analysis, communications folks, because you'll see like a lot of those roles will have a high degree of augmentation because of these technologies. But the really heartening thing that we're seeing at the same time is like, as we see the rise in AI and generative AI, actually the uniquely human skills are in equal demand and equal growth. So what that always like shows me is, the tools are all going to be there, but the creative thinking, the ability to communicate, the ability to work collaboratively with team members, flexibility, these things are going to continue to be on the rise. And as we have more and more technologies that we're working with, I think it's all about like lifelong learning and how do we keep on like updating and refreshing our skills. So whenever I get a question of like, hey, what's the technical skill or what's the digital skill that I should learn, I always think about it's actually the power skills, the soft skills, the resilience. Those are the skills that we're going to really have to continue to double down on. So with that, we did this one. I'm going to do a little chat with Sarah. I'm going to stop. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can kind of have a chat together with Sarah. Again, I'm super excited to have Sarah join and really kind of bring some of these examples to life in Western New York. And by the way, are there any questions in the chat, Maria, before we move on?
There are
none.
no
So,
questions. Sorry, Maria.
It's okay, Seth, go ahead.
There's no questions yet, so just a reminder, if you have any questions, please include those.
Yeah, and if you have any questions for Sarah too, please put them in the chat, and I can we'll definitely address those as well. So I'm just wondering, Sarah, if you could tell us a little bit about the mission of Tech Buffalo.
Absolutely. And Lumsden, thank you so much for hosting this session, for having us here today. Naria, thanks for the invitation. So I'm Sarah Tambacucci. I'm the president and CEO of Tech Buffalo. And the mission of our organization, so we're a nonprofit, is to build an inclusive and accessible tech community here in Western New York with the aim of helping our region attract, retain, and foster more technology talent here locally. We often say that technologists are one of the rarest resources on the planet, and we know that tech crosses almost every industry, including the nonprofit world. So you can kind of think of Tech Buffalo a bit as the glue. So we work with community members through different programs and events to increase awareness around tech roles and tech training opportunities, particularly to help folks appreciate they don't always need that four-year college degree to get into tech. So if you're familiar, we run a Women in Tech meetup group with a couple other community organizations. We've hosted some large-scale events that are all about bringing tech resources in one place for the community. We also work with trainers and employers to make sure that trainers are providing programming that meets employer skill set demand. We also share data across the ecosystem. So if you go to our website, techbuffalo.org, you'll see a free dashboard available to the public that outlines different tech details about our tech workforce. jobs, skill sets that are in demand. And then we run specific programs as well. And we are thrilled to be a TechSpark fellow and be able to engage with the Microsoft TechSpark community and bring some of their resources to bear here in Western New York, because Naria has just scratched the surface as we're learning around the work that Microsoft is doing when looking at things like digital skilling, digital equity, and things of that nature. So hopefully that provides a little bit of an overview about who we are and what we do that sets the context a little bit, and just very excited to be here and talk about this topic.
Wonderful, thank you. So, and I must ask you, what is kind of exciting you most about AI and generative AI, and what are some of the pitfalls that you are concerned about, you as well as like kind of, Tech Buffalo and the general ecosystem as well?
Yeah, it's a really, both sides of that coin are really important to talk about. And it's a good question. And I think on the excitement side, Nari, you're hitting on a lot of this. So it's the ability to refocus team members' time on work that's really creative, where we can focus on their critical thinking skill set and getting rid of some of the mundane routineness of tasks that end up taking up a lot of time. So the nonprofits on this line and the exempt organizations will know, like we've seen the data, we're going to be increasingly asked to do more with less. And so the ability to unlock capacity ends up being really key, especially for organizations that are so mission oriented. So I think that's what I get really excited about. That's what the team is excited about. And I can give a couple examples of where we've used ChatGPT specifically. So, and it's primarily in the marketing and communication side. So, we have to write our own press releases when we do events. And we ended up taking an event invitation that we had crafted. We plugged it into ChatGPT and we said, we're looking to write a press release. The tone that we're looking for is more conversational. And here are the key features of the invitation that need to be highlighted. And ChatGPT within seconds put out a press release for us. Now, of course, we needed to review that press release with a critical eye to make sure it was factually correct, struck the right tone, but it was actually very well done. And we ended shipping it off to someone who provides some pro bono PR support. He looked at it and said, this is great. The only suggestion I'd make is refine the lead line. So we made that a little bit more specific to our region and the event. And it shaved off hours of time and back and forth, and it unlocked our ability to focus on more strategic components of the event. So that's just one example, but something where it was really eye-opening for us, because we said, okay, we've got to think about how we leverage this more in a responsible way. And we've also used it for things like, this is going to sound silly, but like brainstorming event ideas, something that the team might have sat around for a little while going back and forth with each other. We can ask ChatGPT, here's the event concept. We're looking for a catchy name. Here's the audience, and it lists that out. So it's really on the content creation side of things. So we've enjoyed using that, but there are definitely concerns that we think about and sort of echo our discussions with other community organizations as well. I think the first is equitable access. So we know that if we're not intentional about enabling access to AI training, it's just going to further the digital divide that exists in Western New York. And I think there's a lot of fear and uncertainty around AI, especially related to what is it going to do to my job, my sense of purpose, who I am as a professional. And so how are we intentional about educating and skilling as it relates to AI? So that's something that's definitely top of mind. And I think there's the data privacy and protection component and just like safety in general. So we followed everything that happened at OpenAI the week before Thanksgiving. We're reading the things on QStar and things of that nature. So we're trying to understand the big picture implications, but also when you think about use cases with financial reporting, how do we make sure our data is safe? We're not going to feed that into a ChatGPT because we don't understand the data parameters around that. So what does the governance model look like? What are the parameters that you put in place? What kind of data can be shared in these types of models to generate reports and things of that nature? So those are things that are top of mind for us as we think through it. And this could probably be an answer that goes on for a while, but that just gives you sort of the highlights of how we're talking about AI and thinking about it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I do think it's worth watching the video that is going to come out in the link. We kind of share Microsoft's like 6 principles around responsible AI and the framework that we try to use when creating and deploying these technologies. But it will be the case that not only will nonprofits, exempt organizations, schools, like they'll be able to create these as well. And I think you're so right about being really careful and critical and thoughtful about how we deploy these things, and what is the data that we use, and how do we train it, and all of that stuff. And it's interesting because in my community work, I've been telling people a lot, like, hey, this is a tool like any other tool, and this is why we name the products our co-pilots, because you're still the pilot. We still need the human to use these tools and to be discerning about the tool and how it's being used. But it's like there isn't really other tools like that, where I don't know how an elevator works, but I will still go into the elevator and like go up and down the elevator. So I do think that this technology does ask users to really dial into critical thinking and take it one step forward. So anyway, you raised a lot of great points. And I also really loved some of the use cases that you've already found, because it's like, oh, you think, it's such a simple thing, but it takes so much time to do some of these things, right? And then those all add up, like writing a press release.
We did have one question, if it's a good time for you.
Yeah, that would be great. And then we do have a poll too. I'm not going to forget the poll, Maria. So,
So as the question says, one major concern that he sees for AI is entirely based on available data.
yes.
So how does AI filter fact from fiction to deliver results? Many AI users will not review the results they receive, so trusted technology would be an issue in his eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, do you want to start with an answer now?
I think it's a concern that the Tech Buffalo team talks about quite a bit, bias in the models. And so that's why, like, when we talk about the processes we use when it comes to generating content, like, it has to have a human review. Like, that is absolutely essential. Nothing goes out without a human review. And I think, Naria, that goes to your point of like the co-pilot concept. The human is still in control, and I think that is really important. We've seen a lot of examples in the news of nonprofits that didn't do that human element of review, and it didn't turn out so well. So that's, like, practically speaking, how the policy, like, we've put in place in terms of, I guess I should say, more of a procedure, but everything needs to make sure a team member reviews it before it is in any way, shape, or form shared beyond the bounds of the team.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And I do think that this question, and Sarah, you raised it about the equitable access is so key, because first of all, and I know Western New York is not necessarily the case for this, but around the world, or even thinking about, number one is you need connectivity, broadband access, and pretty good broadband access in order to even leverage some of these tools, right? Because you're calling into the large language model and into all this data in order to even get that response. So there is that access issue. There's the issue of like, what kind of data is available? Like, is it going to be the information that's already out there? Like, if you don't have content in specific languages or to specific communities or localized to specific things, and the training will end up becoming more and more biased, which is one of my main reasons why, and I know there are educators and education organizations on the call too, we cannot forget to create more developers, right, too, that are diverse, right, that do come from different backgrounds, different experiences, from rural communities, from urban, from all the different kind of walks of life, because, these are the individuals that ultimately train the data and write the algorithms. And we need to make sure that, it's still such a human-centric thing that we need to be mindful of. So we just raised a lot of issues. And then I think there was embedded in the question, there was like if it's true or false, like, will the AI know if it's true or false? The thing with these large language models is all that it's doing is predicting the next word, right? Based on the training so it's not about fact or fiction for the language model itself. It's about probability in the next statistically correct word, or the closer to correct word, probability wise, right? So I think that's the thing. It's like, we need to make sure that the users understand that it's not giving you fact or fiction or making that judgment call. It's just using the neural networks and the algorithm that it's been trained on. So really great question. I will go to the poll, or else I'm going to forget, Maria, right? So the poll question is, are you planning to learn more about how to leverage generative AI?
Thank you, Naria. I appreciate that. And everyone who wants CPE for this appreciates it. It's the end of the year. They got to get their hours in.
I know. I hear you.
And this is great. So it's much better to learn about AI than accounting pronouncements, right?
Or I think that the AI can help summarize. Actually, that's a great use case of, like, lots of policies and regulations. Like, actually, when in a very meta moment, when the executive order came out in the US, like, I just fed it into the Bing chat to say, hey, what are the top things I should think about? And so it's just a way, and of course, then go back and read it and verify it and skim it, humans at the center.
All right, I'm going to end this. We almost have full participation, so I will end it and share the results.
Yay! Woo! Our work here is done, Sarah. I mean, because at the end of the day, like, just learning more is the thing. Like, just play with it. Of course, ChatGPT, there is a free version, Bing Chat too, and if your organizations have enterprise, actually Bing Chat Enterprise is available for free as well. So if you have M365, but it's just, a tool just to play around with it, right? Play around with DALL-E, like, make some images. We did actually, I wanted to do a reverse icebreaker where we had kind of created an image and asked team members, hey, what was the prompt? And it was actually quite funny, but there's just play around, like, you'll kind of start thinking about the ways that you could leverage, but also the limitations too of kind of how we still need humans at the center, which I think is the main part. Sarah, I have one more last question for you,
Yeah.
which is, as you think about, startups, nonprofits, organizations within the Western New York ecosystem, like, what's one piece of advice that you would have for them, and for, participants on the call as well?
Ooh, one piece of advice. That is a good question. I think learn about AI, talk about it with your teams, understand where the excitement is and where the concern lies and what the appetite is for testing some of the AI components. And then I think the important part is to start small. So identify potential use cases within your organization, think through, like, what the potential risk might be and how you might need to mitigate it, and then design pilots and test it. And I think this is where, when I think about the role of, like, a Lumsden and some of the other support organizations that exist to serve nonprofits and really do a great job, when you're existing in the day-to-day, particularly organizations that focus on training, like, you are just trying to survive. You are just trying to get through the day. There often isn't enough time to keep up with the latest news or even understand the latest innovations. So that's where I think some of the support organizations can come in. You see a lot about our organization, so you can suggest things like, have you thought about AI in grant writing? Have you thought about AI in donor letters? Have you thought about AI in content creation with social media? And help us understand those use cases as they may apply to our organizations, because sometimes if you don't have the time to just look into it, it just seems like, okay, this is the latest tech innovation, it's big tech, it has nothing to do with me, and you're just going to kind of keep going in your lane. But I think we're in a little bit of the hype cycle right now with AI, but it is going to change the way we do our work, the way we need to train those who are existing at our organizations, and do it in a way where it's meaningful, ethical, and additive to humanity. So those are big things, but start small. So I don't know if that's helpful advice to folks on this call, but we're all kind of navigating this together.
Yeah, no, I think that is wonderful advice and really perfect. Great call to action. And I think it can feel so overwhelming, but if you start small, which is, have a discussion with your team about it. Like, who's been using it? How have you been using it? What do you think are the, kind of upsides? What are the pitfalls? I think is a great way to get started. Seth, I would love to just open the floor and say, I think we have a minute. But, but if there are any other questions,
There's no other questions yet. One thing I would mention, just to tie in the conversation from earlier from Fred Floss, if I knew he was on that, was, he was talking about economics and resource constraints of capacity and employees and stuff. And I think AI, you might have mentioned, helping you kind of do more of the certain tasks you're doing quickly by kind of getting a head start on templates and just kind of talking into things, kind of reusing your time effort. So I think AI is a way to kind of give back capacity, kind of create capacity with resource constraints of employees by helping their employees just have more time and have more productive use of your time. So is that one area you could kind of recommend everybody could probably use, just to use the basic AIs to kind of get started and kind of help
yeah,
back some hours maybe?
Yep, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. And especially with, organizations that depend on resource development and fundraising too. I do think that it is such a powerful opportunity, to kind of not only have the data to like learn more about your donors and like your donor base, but also be able to respond in a very personalized way, to individuals. I think those things are also really helpful as well. So great call out. I also wanted to just put in a plug that we have these video snippets that I was lifting from. We actually with LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning is the kind of learning, it used to be Linda, if people remember that courseware arm of LinkedIn. But we developed a free learning pathway on generative AI. It's a couple hours long. Some of these courses, some of these videos are on there. It goes more into also like prompt engineering and how to write a good prompt and get kind of more out of the generative AI. And at the end of it, you can get a professional certificate, career certificate. So, definitely urge people to take a look at that. We have a couple of other resources around like just demystifying AI. We really want to move communities and make sure that they move from fear to FOMO in a way. And so we have some kind of just conversations that very similar to this structure about what are some use cases, but what are some pitfalls to be mindful of as well. And I'll send those links over as a part of the end of the slide too.
And
Sarah.
Naria, if I can chime in, so the Tech Buffalo team actually has it as one of our continuous learning components that we're all going through that particular learning pathway around AI. The other thing just to also note too, I know that Microsoft is doing a fireside chat on December 12th, and I noticed there were some school districts on the line. So that fireside chat is all about teaching in AI. So we'll have links to that shared through our social channels, and we could probably provide the link to that as a follow-up too. But as a TechSpark fellow, we have line of sight to a lot of the virtual fireside chats that are occurring around AI in different segments. The last one was looking at AI and community development and featured agriculture and ag tech. This one is focused on educators. So a lot of interesting content that Microsoft is sharing out with communities.
And I'm sure there's a suite of things at Tech Buffalo too. Maria, what's the best way? Should we put these in the chat, or is it better to aggregate them and give them to you maybe at the end of the slide deck?
Yeah, just because some people have logged off and they're logging off. If you send them to me, Sarah and Nari, and then as everyone knows who's attended our events in the past, we will send a follow-up email. I'll include all those links, and I will also include them on the page that has the recordings as well as the slide decks that people can download if they want them. So that will be forthcoming as soon as I get them. I would anticipate it to be no later than Tuesday, so you guys have a little time to get them to me. And I'll send that email out to everyone on Tuesday, maybe even Monday. So so you guys can look for that.
Wonderful.
All right. So a big shout out and thank you to Seth for helping me out with moderating and facilitating the questions and the introductions. And of course, to Sarah, it was so great to meet you and get that Western New York angle. And of course, Naria, thank you.
Thank you.
So just a reminder to everyone, the evaluation should automatically launch. I know I got a few emails from a couple of you that it didn't. So I don't know if it's a Zoom tech issue, but just look for it. It does open in a new window, so maybe don't close out so quickly, and it should appear. And if you don't, just send me an email and we'll make sure it doesn't impact your CPE credits. Okay, so the next session starts in 5 minutes. And again, Sarah and Naria, thank you so much, and Seth. And we'll reach out to everyone with a follow-up. Great session. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
both.